were nominated, I actually said to President Trump personally, that was an excellent nomination. And there were some that I didn't think were excellent. But you have been involved, and I hope people remember this, for decades trying to help the Jewish people and the Arab people in that part of the world, correct?
Bill, I've been going to Israel since 1973. This year will mark 52 years of being in Israel, dozens and dozens of times to the point I've lost count. So I've been immersed in what's going on in the Middle East and specifically Israel. It's a place I love. I've come to appreciate the extraordinary things that this startup nation has been able to do. And there's really nothing that President Trump would have asked me to do that I would have had any affinity for. But this was the one thing that I could not say no to because it's almost like a lifetime of preparation to do it.
What sparked your interest in Israel?
When I originally went, I was only 17. I was a month shy of my 18th birthday. It was 3 months before the Yom Kippur War, although none of us knew that. And I was there with a friend of mine on a senior trip. And, looking back, it was insane that the two of us went all over the Middle East. We went to Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, throughout the Middle East, but we went to Israel as part of it. Now, Israel in 1973 was a sleepy little country. It had barely gotten through wars in 48, 56, and 67, had success in those wars, shouldn't have, but it did. But its economy was struggling. It was barren in terms of it was dusty, hilly, rocky, didn't have a lot of vegetation. What I have seen over my own trips there over 52 years, I've seen the desert bloom and I've seen the dry bones come to life. It's an amazing entrepreneurial, innovative country that has exported much technology to the rest of the world, including the United States, not only in just raw technology, but in medical care and in agriculture. But all of that aside, it's a space where this tiny little sliver of land, the size of New Jersey, is the most contested piece of real estate on the planet. And it makes it a fascinating part of the world.
Do you have an empathy because you're a Christian, and the evangelical Christian movement has an empathy with the Jewish people in Israel. Is that part of this equation?
Well, it's a personal part. I mean, certainly the role of an ambassador is not to go as a religious or spiritual guide, but it certainly is a part of who I am. And it gives me some parameters of understanding the bigger picture of it, that Israel has been in this land for 3,500 years, that Jerusalem is the indigenous, forever, and unique capital for the Jewish people. I had a Jewish friend from New York ask me one time, we were in Israel together, and he said, why is it that evangelical Christians are so supportive of the Jewish people and of Israel? And I said, it's quite frankly pretty easy. I said, you can be Jewish and have nothing whatsoever to do with Christians, but I can't be a Christian and not have everything to do with the Jewish people, the Jewish faith, the scriptures. Everything I believe is built on the foundation of that. So for me, and most evangelicals would say the same thing, we're people of the book. It's simple. So if you read in Genesis that God blesses those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel, this gets pretty easy.
Okay. Now, when you get over, and you'll be confirmed easily in the Senate, when you get over there, your job is not to make policy. I'm sure that President Trump will consult with you, but your job is exactly what? How do you see it?
It is to carry out the policy of the president. As I shared with the president, there's only one person who got elected November the 5th, and his name was Donald J. Trump. So he gets to set the table and pick the menu. Those of us who serve as an ambassador to any country, we don't go with our own agenda. We don't get to go and say, here's what I'm going to do. We find out what the president's policy is, and we carry that to the country where we've been assigned to represent. So, will I get a chance to visit with President Trump about that policy? Of course. But it ultimately is his decision what that policy is going to be. And
Now,
I'll
that
have,
could put you up against Netanyahu and the Israeli government because we're not simpatico 100% with Israel. Are you ready to stare down Bibi if you have to?
well, it's not so much that I would stare him down. It's more that I would represent the United States and
But
make
he's
it
not
very
going to like that. You're going to get yelled at.
Oh, that's okay.
That's all
I
right.
was governor 11 years. I got yelled at a lot. So this will not be something new for me. Um, I will feel right at home.
Do you anticipate an improvement over there? Because you're walking into the most difficult ambassador job, with the possible exception of Moscow,
Yeah.
on the planet. Beijing is testy too, but you're walking into bullets are flying. All right, and
Yeah.
you are going to be in jeopardy yourself. You're going to have to watch it. You know that. But what is your? Are you optimistic? Are you in the middle or pessimistic? How are you going in over there?
I'm very optimistic, but I'm also very realistic, Bill. I don't have any illusions that there's going to be some two-state solution where you have some people who hate Israel, who want to see it totally annihilated, who are going to move next door, set up a shadow government, and everything's going to be just lovely. That's not going to happen. What I do anticipate is that there is a greater movement going on within the overall Gulf states and in the Middle East. When historically, really, I guess, adversarial nations to Israel, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, a host of the nations, Bahrain, they're now realizing Israel is no threat to them. They don't need to fear Israel, and they don't need to hate Israel. They get nothing for that, nothing. They get more when they share intelligence, tourism, trade. They all benefit.
But you're
And
thinking logically, and when you deal with Hamas and the other terrorists in Iran, they don't think logically. They hate you. They want to kill
you
you,
can't deal with them. You
and you're not
cannot.
going to you're not going to change their minds. By the way,
No,
they're
no, you
always
have.
going to hate and want to kill you. So that's the reality of the situation. And this is the final question for you. Some Americans say, look, it's no matter what you do or what we do as a country, this is never going to get better because there aren't two states. The Gaza and Hamas, that's not a state. There's nobody running the show there. It's you do what I say or we'll kill you. It's not like they have a representative government. So you can't have a two-state solution when you only have one state. That's Israel. Last word.
That's exactly what we have to change in a policy. Both Republican and Democrat presidents have pretended that this two-state solution makes sense. It simply doesn't, especially when one of the states believes that its sole purpose of being on earth is to murder every last Jew. So the reason that Israel has to get rid of Hamas, it can't simply ameliorate the danger, it has to eliminate the danger, is because Hamas is not a government. It doesn't have soldiers with uniforms. It is a group of terrorists, criminals, and savages. You do not deal with them in the way that you would deal with a legitimate government. Donald Trump understands that. And it's why I think there's going to be a different way. The same reason that the Abraham Accords were able to be done in Trump's first term, and that when Biden came in, basically nothing moved beyond that. Donald Trump has an opportunity to do something historic, and I believe he will.
There's kind of a split between the Trump administration and the Israeli government, Netanyahu specifically. Now, it's not public, but they're not close. And here's why. So Donald Trump just wants to stop the fighting, the killing, the wars. He doesn't want conflict, armed conflict anywhere. You could say with accuracy that he is a peacemaker. Now, I know you don't like Trump. You go, oh, but it's true. I know the man. He doesn't want it. All right. He doesn't believe in it. wants to stop it. In the Middle East, there is a split between the Netanyahu people who want to wipe out all the terrorists, and understandably so. Understandably so. Because these terrorists are not going to stop. You can't persuade them. They're going to kill as many Jews as they can kill. And that Iran falls under that category. Excuse me. So Netanyahu, his vision of himself is, I am the protector of Israel. I'm going to wipe out these terrorists. That doesn't coincide with what Trump wants to do. Trump wants to negotiate some parts of this. So that's why we're talking to Iran about the nukes. Now, ultimately, if Iran says blank you to Trump, we're going to build our nuke and we don't care what you think, then Trump's going to let Netanyahu loose. And, you know, there's going to be bad things happen to Iran. That's absolutely going to take place. But for now, okay, Trump is trying to avoid getting Netanyahu involved in any of these negotiations because Netanyahu is too radioactive to the other side. So when Trump goes to the Gulf, he didn't consult with Israel. There's no Israeli delegation there. Now, I assume that the U.S. authorities are briefing Mossad, the intel agency for Israel, but Israel's not really involved with anything that's happening in the Gulf or with the direct negotiations between the USA and Iran. And that is because Trump does not trust Netanyahu. Now, I know this to be true. And in the body of this program tonight, I'll prove it to you. I don't want to give it away now because I was involved last December in a very high-level negotiation that concerned Hamas, Israel, and America. And I don't even know how I got involved with it. I don't know how these things happen, but believe me, there's a lot of action in BillO'Reilly.com. You know, a lot of people all over the world consulting with us in various capacities. That's why I'm going to China. Okay? And I've got the big meeting with the communists at the Beijing Club. And that's going to happen in 10 days. So we know what we're talking about here. This isn't just a regular program. This is, you know, solid information. But you guys need to know, not only Jewish New Yorkers, but everybody, all New Yorkers, you need to know that this is so complicated. There isn't a problem on earth as complicated as the hatred in the Middle East. Not one. Africa's terrible because of the tribalism and all that, but it's off the world stage pretty much. China, we can deal with China, I think. I'll have a much better assessment of that when I come back from Beijing. I think we can deal with them. But the Middle East, something that has bothered me for a long time, and I think I figured it out, is anti-Semitism. So we in the New York area, and that includes Newark, Jersey City, all of that, there are more than 2 million Jews living in our community. Second largest in the world outside of Israel. They're first, we're second. Now, in New York City, almost 1 million Jews are residing there. In Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester, approaching 500,000. So this is a substantial presence. Yet we continue to see and hear anti-Semitism. And I'm going, why? What is driving that? First, a little history. So at the time of Aristotle, going way back to 384 BC, the lending of money for profit was believed to be dishonorable. And then when the Christian church under St. Paul began to form, usury, which is the lending of money for interest, was designated a sin largely based upon what the Greeks did. And the church banned the practice in Europe. You could not lend money if you were a Christian. Now, in the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, a Jew cannot lend money and demand interest from another Jew. But if you're Jewish in the Torah, you can lend money to a non-Jew and collect interest from that person. That fueled anti-Semitism throughout Europe in the Middle Ages up until modern times. I mean, this is the week of the Nazis losing, signing the armistice in 1945. That was all based on Jew hatred, that whole Third Reich. And it caught fire among some, not most, because of the history of the Jewish presence in Europe. And Jewish people are very industrious, I'm generally speaking now, and they are prosperous. And they live better than most people in the world. Israel is a very prosperous nation. So that brings me to the far left around the world and in America. They hate Israel. And that's a lot of this anti-Semitism coming out of that crew. So they see Israel as a fascist state, number one, that expropriated Arab land in Palestine. And if you look at the history of that area, I mean, it's been occupied by Muslims, by Romans, on back and forth. And after World War II, Harry Truman got behind a Jewish state, as he had to. With 6 million dead in Europe and 10, 15 million displaced, and Stalin was persecuting Jews in Russia, they had nowhere to go. So territory was carved out in the Middle East for a Jewish state. Truman got behind it, and it came to be. But the far left hated that. They hate Israel. They think Israel is a colonial situation that persecutes and murders Jews. Now, no matter how much terrorism is directed at Israel, the far left's not going to change that. And a congresswoman, Omar, epitomizes that point of view. Roll it.
Israel has dropped more bombs in the last 10 days than we dropped in a whole year in Afghanistan. Where is your humanity? Where is your outrage? Where is your care for people?
Now, she's a loon. Everybody knows Ilhan Omar is a loon. And, you know, what is Israel supposed to do when Hamas is murdering its citizens? It has to defeat Hamas. And to defeat Hamas militarily, you have to use bombs. Okay, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just explaining history. Omar doesn't care. She hates Israel. Is she anti-Semitic? I can't look into her heart, but certainly she peddles a tremendous destructive propaganda against Jews. So there you have it. And, you know, I don't really know any anti-Semites myself. I wouldn't associate it with a person like that. Everybody knows that I stand up for Judeo-Christian tradition and for Jews themselves. But I think an explanation was needed. I provided it. All right, anti-Semitic reports. Now, this comes from the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. I've had my problems with this outfit. It's to their benefit that anti-Semitism grows. You know, it's a double-edged sword. They get more money when there's a bigger problem, but they are sincere in trying to protect Jews. There's no doubt about it, ADL. They go about it sometimes in a very heavy hand, though. So here are the stats. Anti-Semitism incidents in the USA have reached a 45-year high, okay? And they're growing about 5% each year, about 900% over the past 10 years. That's a big number. Last year, about 9,354 cases of vandalism, harassment, assault against Jews. It's a big number, mostly in the urban areas. And the ADL wants to get it out there. Now, why is this happening? It's because the far left, which controls academia, many college campuses are controlled by far left zealots, and controls New York City's council, a lot of cities, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, Baltimore, they're controlled by the far left. The far left, 100%, everyone, you can't be far left if you don't hate Israel. That's one of the things. You have to be for abortion and promote it as a good thing. And you have to hate Israel. And there's a few other things. You have to hate Trump. Okay? So when you have the far left hating Israel, particularly on college campuses, you're going to have those incidents rise. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.